Hi. As John mentioned, I run the business continuity planning at Yahoo. We're going to talk a little bit about how things fail and what we've seen. So I want to start with some definitions. What is business continuity planning? There are really two styles, DR and HA. DR looks like this, airplane into data center. These things don't happen often. HA is a little different. It's side up under any circumstance, large, medium, or small. This is a deployment we did in 29 data centers, each one able to run independently. So some examples of DR planning. This actually was one guy's real plan in case the site goes down. He's going to retire to the beach in Bali. Unfortunately, if your company tanks in the process, it's going to look more like retire to a deserted island. So at Yahoo, we do HA planning. We assume things will fail, and we go from there. Why? Because data centers do go down, especially when you're in 29 of them. Things we've seen at Yahoo include network instability, HVAC failures, power distribution and switching, UPS failures, generator failures, leaky roofs and equipment, inadvertent fire suppression, believe it or not, partial nuclear meltdown, and of course, frying squirrels. A frying squirrel did take out half of our Santa Clara data center 2 years back. And the usual stuff, maintenance and migration, affects you as well. So let's go over some real-world examples. Some of these are Yahoo, some are not. Starting with fake fires. Yahoo launch, FM200 dump. Does everybody know what this is? Our guys did not. Someone's doing a little soldering work in the data center, a little smoke comes off, triggers a soft activation of the fire suppression system. You get alarms, strobes, and you have that window to hit that button and abort. Nobody knew what to do, so they sat there, electrical gets cut out, and the FM200 dumps on all of our people. Fortunately, we don't use Halon these days. So what did I learn? Well, regular training and practice can really help you avert unneeded disaster scenarios. Yahoo Reston, HVAC failure. Our Reston data center has had N+1 HVAC, so you can lose one. That's OK, right? So we lost one. Unfortunately, it caused a bit of a temperature anomaly. Small part of the data center got warm. That triggered a stage 1 fire suppression. Guess what happens then? All the HVAC shuts off. Kill the air to the fire. Data center went up to 130 degrees within minutes. We were sending our site ops in 5-minute shifts to cleanly shut stuff down. Now, in that case, what I learned, sometimes you do have time to get out cleanly. We were able to move traffic to other data centers while they were working. No data loss, no downtime. But in hindsight, probably shouldn't have sent our guys in there. All right, on a side note, this is our Yahoo Buffalo data center. It has no HVAC. We just point the buildings into the wind and we open slats in the walls. That's one less failure point. All right, moving on to actual fires. This is a data center called Rakshat. They had a transformer explode. Long rebuild. They had to install additional generators. They did manage to survive through that. But it does happen. Unless you think that that's a once-in-a-lifetime event, the exact same data center, 5 years later, almost to the day. Anybody remember the Planet explosion? Their electrical room exploded, tore out 3 walls, caught on fire. And then, of course, they were in the news. They got slash dotted, and all of their notifications were down. 9,000 servers offline. The other floors of the building were still OK, but the fire department wouldn't let them fire up their generators. They couldn't communicate with their customers because they were slash dotted. They eventually got the non-impacted floors onto generator. And then the generator failed. These guys ended up manually carting thousands of servers from one data center to another. It took them weeks to get back up. What did we learn? Sometimes things are just not going to come back. Moving on to backup system failures. These are the things that are supposed to save the day. Vario, Hurricane Wilma. I had my website hosted actually in this data center, my personal website. October 2005, Hurricane Wilma makes landfall. Not a big deal, right? Data centers can survive that. Power went out, went on generator, no problem. Unfortunately, it was a disaster area. And due to widespread impact, they weren't able to get fuel to the generators. Data center stayed up for 2 days and then went down for weeks. What I learned, the best disaster plans can be heavily impacted by actual disasters. All right, moving on to the other things that protect us, UPS. This is probably what most of you guys think of when you think of UPS. Our Yahoo Sunnyvale data center, very small one, kind of half lab, half production, looks more like this, and sometimes like this. Within a 5-year period, we had 3 UPS meltdowns in the same data center. Over the same period, we only had 3 utility drops. The nice thing about utility drops is you don't have to evacuate the building and have the fire department come. So what did we learn? Complexities introduced by adding all of these redundant systems, they actually introduce additional failure cases. Our UPS causes many problems as it solved. I would say more. Recent surveys said 29% of unplanned data center outages are caused by UPS failures. 365 Main. So this is another sort of UPS failure. 365 Main like to brag about their fancy flywheel UPS systems and their 365 days a year of uptime until they went down for a day. And now we call them 364 Main. A lot of known names in there: Craigslist, Technorati, LiveJournal, TypePad, AdBright, and keep going. Now the fun thing about this one was following along on the internet boards at the time. The internet goes wild with rumors of a drunken employee who rampaged through the data center, smashing everything and unplugging the power systems, and angry mobs beating on the doors of the data center because their sites were down. And none of that was true, but it was fun to watch. Blame then goes to the flywheel-based UPS system. Theory was we had a whole bunch of brownouts, not enough to trigger the generators, but enough to slow down those flywheels, sap energy from them. So when the power finally does fail, there's not enough momentum to carry the load. That ended up not being true. It was traced to a generator startup issue. But it's an interesting thing to think about. That's my unspun gyro, if anybody didn't get the reference. So what did we learn? Even hot new technologies have weak points. So back to our side note. We've learned that we introduce additional failure cases when we add complexities to the system. We've learned that you have to plan for these things. You have to plan to handle UPS failures and fires and explosions and all of this stuff. So why do we need a UPS at all if we're going to plan for it? So going back to our Buffalo data center, just imagine the cost savings that you could achieve if you built data centers with no UPS, no HVAC, and no generators. It will go down from time to time, but if you plan for that, that's okay. All right, the unthinkable. March 2011, earthquake, horrifying tsunami out in Japan. Followed by the Fukushima Daiichi incident, exploded on fire. This nuclear plant slowly melting down. There's rolling blackouts in Tokyo. Our data center is nearby, and we'd really like to send our guys somewhere else. They said that they would protect the site with their lives if they had to. In this case, that was a little too literal for us. So we planned a failover. We said, hey, we've built all these systems in place. Let's just fail out of the Tokyo data center, send our guys somewhere else. They rejected it because the stuff that was being served from our site in Tokyo at the time was aid organizations and charity organizations and people trying to find loved ones. And anything we touched would have put risk to that. So we didn't do it. What did I learn? Don't take a stable situation and make things worse. So what about cloud? People think of this when they think of cloud. That's not really what it's like. It's more like this. There are a lot of clouds. There's no ubiquitous stratus cloud. There are a whole bunch of independent cumulus clouds, and guess what? They live in data centers. The same availability issues and strategies that we use in conventional computing apply to cloud computing. Average lifespan of a Cumulus cloud is only an hour. And we've seen some of that out there. AWS Dublin. Sunday, August 7th, 2011, power outage took out Amazon and Microsoft just down the road in Dublin. The initial reports blamed lightning. It was later discovered to be a transformer explosion. The transients, though, knocked out parts of the backup system, which basically knocked the generators offline. Not there when you needed them. Microsoft was down for about 4 hours. Amazon, on the other hand, ran into data integrity issues because of the hard failure. It took them 48 hours to bring some of their services back up. 2 days later, the rest of the EC2 site went down. Took Netflix, Foursquare, Instagram, Reddit, probably others. This is a list of the companies impacted by the AWS Dublin outage. I don't know if you can read all that. It's a long list. So what did we learn from that? Well, the cloud is not invulnerable. In fact, I think a big part of it went out last week, too. The more we share resources, the greater impact when things do go wrong. And most importantly, for anybody using cloud, make sure your data is stored in multiple clouds. So, with all of that going on, how do we sleep at night at Yahoo? Think big. This is the tagline I kind of give for what we do is we plan for the macro, we solve for the metro. We start with the assumption that an entire metro region, San Francisco Bay Area, will fall into the ocean at some point. If we can solve for that, then we've just solved for everything else. So, questioning the traditional approach to BCP, do we really need levels upon levels upon levels of redundancy? 2 servers, yeah. 2 storage arrays, I don't know, maybe not. 2 switches, 2 uplinks, 2 power distribution buses running from independent providers, 2 independent network backplanes touching every device. Rubber chickens, how much can you add? At some point, we've added so much complexity into the equation that our reliability actually starts to go down. The most common outages are due to complex systems. Also, remember, if you solve for the data center or metro size issues, all the little stuff matters less. You could have a core router outage, and you just fail over, just like if the data center burnt down. So my advice is to narrow your focus to smooth failover between 2 or more geographically diverse metros. Once you've done that, you've solved all of the other problems. In practice, failover is not supposed to be just for airplane into building. At Yahoo, we do it all the time. We do live testing during peak traffic hours, shifting millions of users from coast to coast, from continent to continent. It's non-impacting. Nobody knows we're doing it. We learn, we build competence, and we've started actually doing it as part of our daily life. We do it for staged upgrades. Fail out of a data center, upgrade, test, fail back in. We do it to manage risk. If we're doing some core network upgrades, a lot of times we'll just shift our users out of the area, just in case it goes wrong. Migrations from data center to data center, they're all done as part of BCP. So in closing, this is a quote from Meg Whitman's run for governor a couple years back. When the servers crashed, effectively putting eBay out of business, Meg gathered her team, along with all the best technology experts from around Silicon Valley, and they stayed there till it was fixed, literally sleeping at the office. This is a bad business continuity plan. I don't want to be the guy who has to call my CEO, have her come in, sit with me all night, bring in a bunch of people from other companies to help us fix our problem. This is my plan. Make sure the traffic failed over cleanly, roll over, go back to sleep. Thank you.